Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and I have spent an extensive amount of time over the past couple of days this week playing the healer role on the Midnight Beta, and I wanted to break down my thoughts on it, the pros and the cons, the vision, the direction, and can it possibly be achieved, and will it inevitably be a better experience? Because obviously the most important role, although maybe not the most popular, is the healer. If people don't want to play it and it's not fun, our queues are going to be long. We're not going to be able to fill groups. It's going to be a struggle. So it's very important that the healer role is fun and is successful. So I'm spending a lot more time on it. And in today's video, we'll be reviewing it. I played some Holy Paladin, some Disciplined Priest, and some Resto Druid. And I do plan to advance onto more specializations moving into the future. The first thing that I will note on healing the Midnight Beta is that you have to be very premeditated. You can see in this position, I've already used Avenging Wrath and I've already used Blessing of Sacrifice. These two cooldowns reduce damage on the target that's being attacked and enhance my healing by a significant amount. What I've noticed is that if you don't just commit cooldowns right away, you end up in an unrecoverable position where your partner will just sit at like 30% health just indefinitely and you can't top them off. So that is a major difference in playstyle that I've noticed so far. And the other thing is that I think their goal is to try and make it so health bars aren't just yo-yos where you're just going like I'm 100% and then I'm 0 and then now I'm back instantly up to 100, which I think is a good idea. I think that's a good vision, but I do think it's going to require more tweaking, and I think along the process is that it's going to feel very jarring and it's going to feel very frustrating. So you can see like here with my Shadow Priest at like 40% health and I'm tossing out Eternal Flames, which is my big combo heal, and Holy Shocks, but it's taking me quite a while to get them back to full health. But to be honest, that's kind of what made playing a healer for me in the past fun, was, you know, committing these global cooldowns and trying to actually like top the target over time instead of just, okay, I'm CC'd, they might die. I'm out of CC, they're at full health. So I think I believe in the vision, I believe in the direction, and honestly, considering we're still like months out with beta, this current iteration of where we're at doesn't seem too bad, but it is very jarring. So if you log on the beta and you make a healer and you start playing, you're just going to feel like it's like unrecoverable and you're just like, what's going on? The biggest thing to remedy that, at least right now, is to just pop your cooldowns. Like, oh, combat started, pop your major healing cooldown. Make sure that you're mitigating it as much as possible. Also, I think dampening is bugged. You can see it in the top right. It's at 12% healing reduction, 14%. Normally, it's supposed to start at like 10 and not stack for a minute. So I think the dampening is bugged, which is also, you know, exacerbating how you need to use your cooldowns. They fixed that bug on retail when it happened, but I think it's still happening in Midnight, or this is intentional that they want dampening to be at this pace. But you'll see that healing is really negatively affected, and it's honestly very frustrating when you play for the first time. Holy Paladin, though, is one of the few healers that still does have a mechanic that can heal a target to 100%, and that's Lay on Hands. All of the other ones, like Nature Swiftness, yeah, those things don't top people. They do not top people. You're gonna be very lucky if it does like maybe 30 to 40% healing of the target, but I think it's good. Like, you can see the intensity of the match building more, right? With my Evoker and my Hunter at 70%, their Shadow Priest at 30%, but at the same time, they're not just like tensed up, worried that they're going to die in the next millisecond. I feel like that's a lot more unapproachable as far as gameplay is concerned, especially for someone new or someone who's returning who doesn't know all the cooldowns. So as soon as they get in there and it's like Mage popped Icy Veins, one shot, maybe that's a bad example. Hunter pops True Shot and aim shots you, and you're just absolutely knocked out, KO'd immediately, and you're just like, what's going on? Like, you just lose instantly, right? The one-shot meta, the yo-yo meta. This seems to be like a very committed decision to move away from that. The first step that I would like them to take, if they're making changes for PvP, is that they need to snip out the remaining one-shots. There are still a couple of them. I think the ones that I've noticed, at least so far, was Combustion from Fire Mage, Celestial Conduit for Windwalker Monk, and I believe there's a couple others. Because if we're going to move into this kind of like meta where damage is always happening and healing is always happening, no one's ever really at full health, then you can't have people having one-shots at all, because otherwise those specs will just completely dominate and they'll just turtle until they can one-shot, and we have to make sure that all the one-shots are out. The next thing is that they need to adjust dampening and adjust the main stat bonus on the trinkets, and they've got to fiddle around with that, you know, increase it on healers and damage, see where that feels. And I feel like if they do this like week to week, that they could get the game into a really nice spot as far as healing. So you can see, like, even right now, I had Avenging Wrath up, I had Sacrifice, I'm still kind of dying. I'm struggling. So I'm bubbling and I'm lay on handsing. I think this is mostly, again, attributed to dampening. Another reason why I'm making this video is kind of like relay feedback, let you guys know what I think about the game, what's going on, and hopefully relay feedback in a sense to start getting some changes as well to the Midnight Beta. Because considering this is like an early stage beta, I think the gameplay is still good for where it's at, and they're still kind of like vamping on classes. A lot of DPS have had like spells restored to them. One thing of like personal feedback towards Holy Paladin is that it feels very instant cast based, and I very much so miss like the infusion fast cast holy lights. I just feel like most of the time I'm a paladin with my hands in the air, just holy shocking and eternal flaming, and I literally just can't get rid of them. I just have so many, and then instant flash of light procs, and just everything is instant. Whereas other healers are starting to have to cast a lot more, and with the reduction of interrupts, reductions of CC, I think that casting more is ultimately healthier for the game. I think it's more readable for the game. It's like, oh, I can see the heal incoming, as opposed to just always being instant cast based. So for me, at least personally, I'd like if the fast cast holy lights could come back. I don't know if anybody is a holy paladin main, but that's just something that I noted from playing paladin over multiple expansions, is that you're almost entirely instant cast. Your crowd control, your damage, your healing, just everything. You very rarely ever actually do any casting. So again, sacrifice right away, wings right away. This at least lets me break the trap, so it's a little bit more strategical, at least against the hunter here. But if I don't do that, the target will die pretty quickly. So just note that you're going to have to, even with doing that, the target's almost dying. I have to lay on hands as well onto the Shadow Priest and charge over. But you got to get comfortable with it. My first couple games when I was playing healer, I was absolutely raging balls. I was just super toxic, just super bitter, just like, I don't like doing this. This feels awful. And it took me a little bit more games to figure out keybinds for some specs that I haven't played in a while. And also just how to allocate my cooldowns to make it less frustrating than it currently was. So this is why I'm trying to give you guys this advice as well if you're going onto the Midnight Beta, so that you're not as annoyed as I was at the beginning of it, expecting certain things to happen like you would in the War Within. Because to me, it's a completely different game. And I do think the vision is worth the short-term sacrifice. It's the same thing with add-ons, right? The short-term sacrifice is that the UI is going to be kind of scuffed. Another thing towards that would be the damage meter. It's just not very helpful as far as analyzing the game. And honestly, I think it's going to impede the development process, at least from the community's ability to give feedback, because I can't like break down like what does the individual spell hit for from each class. I can't compare it to my opponent's damage because it only records the damage of my teammates. It resets as soon as you leave the arena. It's just not very helpful in terms of kind of sorting out what's going on, right? Because a lot of times you want to see like, okay, this spell is 30% of a class's damage or 30% of a class's healing. Is that, does that make sense? Or should it be shifted into a different ability, a different focus to try and make the class cast more, or think about other things that is going on in a match specifically? The other thing that I'm a bit concerned about is like battleground pacing, because like these games, dampening is super accelerated, but Battlegrounds don't have dampening. So I do wonder, it's like almost impossible to get a Battleground queue to pop in order to actually get that testing. I don't know if they intend on doing like a play with the blues epic BG test, because they did it against the bots, but I would really like to see it against players to see what the pacing of the game is like with zero dampening. But right now they've really got to just work on tweaking the shuffle. Like I think they should probably change the dampening on beta to be the same as retail first, just to see like, is nothing happening, because is healing actually too high? Because right now it just feels like super intense. Like you see this druid with this rogue, he is struggling to get that guy alive. But at the same time, that's also kind of the fun part, is like, okay, how am I going to get this guy, keep him up, as opposed to just instantly topping him off and knowing that he can't die and he's immortal for X amount of time until the next CC hits. I feel like it is a little bit more entertaining. Now there's obviously some damage tuning as well that needs to be done. I feel like Beast Mastery Hunter in particular is doing like a significant amount of damage relative to a lot of other classes, likely the synergies of its set bonuses, the damage enhancements of its Bestial Wrath window, I've noticed. And that's why I say like focusing in on the classes cooldowns that are doing extraordinarily high damage, kind of snipping the burst away from those. Focus on the shuffle, dampening healing, because you can see it's bugged. It says 50% healing reduction. It's going to snap to 10 and then just start stacking right away. It's just super bugged. Definitely needs to be fixed. But I think with a couple of weeks of tuning adjustments on the trinket stat bonuses, snipping out some of the one-shots and excessively high damage on some specs, that it could be really fun. I really want to go to a meta where people aren't just ping-ponging up and down immediately off of 1cc and instantly dead. I really think slowing that down just a tiny bit, not like BFA, because people bring up BFA whenever I talk like that. The thing about BFA is BFA was also a one-shot meta. You just had to wait until dampening was high enough that the one-shot would stick and the healing wouldn't counter it instantly. It was still one-shot. We've basically been playing yo-yo health bars since like Mists of Pandaria, because that's when they introduced a lot of the cooldowns that enhance your healing significantly. Now they're starting to strip away a lot of those cooldowns, either completely from the class or the strength of those cooldowns, and they're significantly reducing them. So I think that we could be entering a really magnificent era for World of Warcraft, whether it's PvE or PvP, as long as the vision is actually achieved. And it's going to require week to week tuning, adjustments, relaying with feedback. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot, but I think inevitably the sacrifice will be worth it. Just in the short term, it's going to be a little bit painful. And that's my breakdown so far of the healers. I'm going to continue testing all of them more extensively to give you guys like a tier list on like which healers are looking the strongest, which healers are looking the weakest type of deal, of course, on the channel, and relaying the patch notes to you guys as things go on. So if you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with news related to World of Warcraft and not missing out, then smash that subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for tuning into the video in this weekly update, and I will see you in the next one.